Perhaps the most famous quote from Shakespeare's Macbeth comes when Macbeth, about to murder the king, is having second thoughts. Enter Lady Macbeth. "What if we should fail?" he asks her. "We fail," she replies, "but screw your courage to the sticking place, and we'll not fail." The character of Lady Macbeth held a particular fascination for one of the characters in tonight's story. She too had her Macbeth, someone she was able to impose her will upon almost totally. The investigation fell into the lap of a trainee detective, dreaming of the big case that would launch his career. But it started in such a minor, almost petty way, that even a dreamer could not have guessed where it would end. It was a busy Wednesday afternoon, and store detective Sefton Welland was on duty in Marks & Spencer in Richmond. A team of fraudsters had been operating in the area, and the store detective was suspicious of the couple she'd seen outside, framed in the window. Why were they now appearing to ignore each other? She followed them outside, and the mystery deepened. They started to act like a couple again. Because she hadn't actually seen them do anything illegal, Sefton was about to return to the store when she suddenly spotted an off-duty PC she knew, Paul Groves.
Paul! Oh, hello, Sefton. What are you up to?
Listen, I've got to be quick. You see that couple? They're just going through the entrance.
Oh, the girl's wearing a barber.
Yes, that's them. I think they're up to something. I've just followed them from the store.
Okay, let's stick with them.
Sefton told PC Groves about her hunch that something was going on. The man had bought women's clothes and the girl had bought men's. Then they left separately and met up again outside.
Excuse me, sir. I'm a police officer. I've reason to be suspicious about your shopping trip to Richmond.
What are you talking about? This is outrageous. Can't someone go shopping in this country without being arrested?
They were held in the manager's office at Kew Garden Station while PC Groves phoned the CID at Richmond.
Yeah, I've got them with me now.
On duty were Detective Sergeant Ken Beaver and the new boy PC Terry Wright on a training attachment to the CID.
Yeah, so what exactly have they done wrong?
Well, they've been shopping at Marks & Spencer stores in central London.
What I'm trying to say is...
Why bother coming all the way out to Richmond just to go in another one?
OK, if you think there's a reasonable suspicion of some kind, I'll send over a van to pick them up. Hang on.
What's it all about then, Ken?
I don't know. Nothing, probably.
So the mysterious couple were taken to Richmond Police Station where Beaver and Wright interviewed them.
We're Canadians. I'm Tara Lucy No. He's my husband, Christopher Platno. Take a look at my driver's license.
So what were you doing in Richmond?
Buying each other presents. Is that some kind of crime over here?
Why are you over here, exactly?
I'm a writer. I've been commissioned to do some writing here for a New York publisher.
I'm about to start an English course at Bath University.
We're just doing a bit of shopping and sightseeing before we start work.
Where are you living?
Bath.
Bath.
The couple protested their innocence during several hours of questioning. Then around 7:30, the man finally gave them an address. But it wasn't in Bath, it was near Baker Street in West London.
So you can see this is our home. Now can you leave us alone?
Not just yet, sir.
Yeah, Ken? Look at these. They've got labels on. Bought M&S Brighton, March 25th. Elizabeth wearing black slacks and white shirts, £49.20.
It's just like the checkbooks. They're all for just under 50 quid. They must be getting over 2 grand's worth of gear here. Got a bit of a thing about Marks and Spencers, haven't you, mate?
Hang on. Here's something!
Let's have a look.
OK, take it off. Come on, take it off.
Do you want to take the wig off as well?
This is all mine.
It's yours, all right. But it's dyed, isn't it? What's it all about then, son? Why all the silly disguises?
Yeah, kid. It's German passport.
Well, Mr. No. Or is it Mr. Harris? Or Jennings? Or Norman? Have you got anything to say about this lot? Get the van over here, Terry. I want everything in this flat backed up and taken down the neck. Everything.
It had been a long day, but there was still one more surprise to come.
Christopher Platno.
You better change the name to Suring.
What?
Suring. Jans Suring. That's my real name.
The next morning, Suring admitted he and the girl were not Canadian. She was American, and he was a German national who had been studying in the US at university. He also revealed her name, Elizabeth Haysom. When she was confronted with Suring's confession, the girl became surprisingly talkative.
Simple. We used our false identity papers to open up bank accounts in Bath and Canterbury. And with the checkbooks, we went into all the Marks and Spencer stores in the area. One of us buys all the stuff, and the next day the other one takes it all back and asks for a refund in cash.
Where'd you get the false IDs?
That's for you to find out.
Beaver and Wright were intrigued by the frankness of the couple's confessions. But they realized when someone admits their guilt so readily, it's usually to hide something else. But what? The couple were kept in custody while Beaver and Wright dug deeper into their background.
Lovely. Thomas Cook reckoned the travellers' checks numbers had found the flat are stolen.
So where were they?
Paris, Brussels, Yugoslavia.
Been at it all over Europe.
Ken, I know you're busy, but I want you to take a look at an aggravated burglary in Drysdale Gardens. Okay?
Yeah.
Suspected shoplifting had become international fraud, but both officers felt uneasy about leaving it there. The problem was time.
Well, I suppose I'll see you when I see you then, eh?
Yeah, bye.
Wright was convinced the key to the case lay somewhere among the sacks of contents taken from the Baker Street flat. He used his spare time to sift through them. The couple's letters to each other were peppered with philosophical references and Shakespearean quotations. In particular from Macbeth, the story of the ambitious wife who goaded her husband to murder.
Dear Jens, Mummy and Daddy still continue to try and live my life for me. I'm getting increasingly tired of it. Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would. Why can't we do voodoo on them? Why can't my mother drink her gin one night and fall into the fire? Perhaps my father could drive off a cliff. No, they still don't accept or like you.
It was obviously from Haysom to Suring and was dated Christmas 1984. The more he delved into the sacks, the more he uncovered. Then he read another letter from Lady Macbeth Haysom. Here, at last, was the clue he'd been looking for.
Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, which thou as a coward in thine own esteem? And a coward in thine own esteem.
Okay. So tell me about it.
Well, I was sifting through the sacks last night and I came across 2 letters you should see. Take a look at this one first. It's dated 1984. The quotation's from Macbeth. I looked it up.
Well, this is a bit strong. I wish you'd fall in the fire.
Right. Now, this one's dated a few months later, May 1985. Dear Jans, wasn't it sad at the funeral? I couldn't stop crying. Poor Mummy and Daddy. Still, now we can live together for the
Now
rest
we
of
can
our
live
lives.
together for the rest of our lives. Now that you've done this for me.
Now that you've done this for me.
That's what the quotation from Macbeth was about. Getting him to do something for her.
Did you find anything else?
Yeah, a line from a notebook that we're both using as a diary. This is dated a few months after that letter. I think this is also Haysom. She says, I think Gardner and Reed might have found the prints on the coffee cup. That's all it says.
I think our next job is to check out who this Gardner and Reed are. If we're right about this, they have to be American police.
The whole investigation now hinged on finding Gardner and Reed, the names in the diary.
Right, thanks. Well, he's not from Illinois.
We've really landed you in at the deep end, haven't we, Terry?
No, I'm enjoying it. What we really want is some time off the road to dig around more. I think we're on the verge of something with this one, but well, we need another couple of weeks.
What do you think, Terry?
Should do it, sir.
I can spare you for a week. I'm sorry, but that's all.
Bedford County Sheriff's Office. Ricky. The man says he's calling from England.
What can I do for you?
Is that Sheriff Ricky Gardner?
It is.
I'm a police officer calling from London.
The hell you are. Is that you, Chuck? Quit fooling around, boy.
No, it's not a joke. My name is Terry Wright, and I'm with the Metropolitan Police in London. I want to ask you a question about
Mr. and Mrs. Haysom. Do you know them?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I want to ask you two questions.
Shoot.
Are Mr. and Mrs. Haysom dead?
Yes.
Were they murdered?
Yes. Now, what's this about?
We have their daughter Elizabeth and her boyfriend, Jan Suring.
In custody.
You've what?
You interested in them?
Damn right we are.
Sheriff Gardner flew into London immediately.
Haysom's parents were a wealthy couple. The wife was related to the English Astor family. Murders were awful. It's the most notorious case in Virginia for the last 20 years.
Echo 3. Come in.
They lived in a quiet little district of Bedford County. Elizabeth raised the alarm. She said she hadn't heard from her parents for a few days, and she was worried. A friend discovered the bodies. When we got inside the house, We thought we had another Charles Manson on our hands. They'd been stabbed and they'd had their throats cut. Mr. Haysom's body had 37 stab wounds. And across the floor, someone had smeared the devil's sign in their blood.
Was there any evidence against the daughter and Suring?
Well, they had an alibi. They were at a basketball game in Washington the weekend the murders happened. They had food bills, movie stubs for two, that kind of thing. But the mileage on the rental car was just enough for them to have driven to the parents' house in Bedford County and back again.
Why'd you let them go?
We didn't. We're keeping an eye on them, but we didn't have enough to charge them. Eventually, we worked our way through most of the other suspects and decided to ask Suring to come in for blood samples and prints. And that's when they skipped, 7 months ago.
What about the diary? Why were they so worried about you finding the prints on the coffee cup?
Well, I know this sounds kind of dumb, but we got nothing on file about prints on a coffee cup. There were no prints on a coffee cup.
Tell me about your parents. Were you close?
Of course we were. We loved each other a great deal. They were my world. I still have nightmares about what happened.
I'm sorry. Terry, pass me that. Let me read this to you, Elizabeth. Dear Yance, Mummy and Daddy still continue to try and live my life for me. Why can't my mother drink her gin one night and fall into the fire?
I don't want to say anything more. This interview's over.
I've had the mileage figures from Sheriff Gardner from where you hired the car to the ball game and back again. And that's a journey of 240 miles. The clock had nearly 700 on it.
I told you. We got lost.
Nobody gets that lost. Are you still asking us to believe that? How do you explain the fact that the extra mileage is almost exactly what it would take for you to drop Elizabeth off at the ball game, murder her parents, drive back to pick her up again, and then drop the car off afterwards?
Okay, I'll level with you. So I did go to her parents that weekend. But you know, they hated me. They didn't think I was good enough for their daughter. Liz and I decided it was time I had a heart-to-heart with her mom and pop, so I did. I just wanted them to understand that we loved each other.
Is that when you killed them?
Come on, man, I didn't kill them. I only kept quiet about going to see them because I knew I'd be the one who'd get the blame. It all fits in very neatly for you bastards, doesn't it? The college kid, blinded by love. But all I did was chat with them and then went back to Washington. End of story.
And they were still alive when you left them.
Just like you're sitting there now.
Go on, try it.
You reckon I like this stuff, huh?
Yeah,
What do you call it? Bitter. Damn, no wonder you boys talk funny.
Suring stuck rigidly to his story that he'd left Mr. and Mrs. Haysom alive. Elizabeth was refusing to say anything. After an encouraging start, it looked like the Anglo-American team had run into a brick wall.
Haysom wrote to Suring. I think Gardner and Reed have found the prints on the coffee cup.
Yeah, but we don't know what that means.
But Suring does. Or at least thinks he does. So why don't we try and bluff him?
Well, I don't...
Come on. That's all we've got.
There you go. Still a little confused about Washington.
So you left them alive in the house. What did you do then?
I drove back to Washington.
Straight back?
Yes, I got there about 2 a.m.
So who did you see when you got back to Washington?
I went straight back to Liz and then later some friends.
Okay. I want to talk about something else now. I want to talk about the fingerprints on the coffee cup.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. Liz even wrote about it in her diary, how you were worried about the fingerprints on the coffee cup.
I don't know what you mean. I don't want to say anything else.
The prints on the coffee cup had been their last chance, but it appeared as if Søring had weathered the storm.
Listen, if you get me for these murders, do you think I could be tried in Germany?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, I think in Germany I could probably get away with 5 years for manslaughter. I think maybe 10 over here. But if you send me back to the States, they'll put me in the chair.
Well, why would you be so interested?
I killed 2 people, you know that. I mean, I didn't mean that. You made me say that. You're intimidating me!
It was an extraordinary moment. But Beaver knew that because he had been alone with Søring, his confession would be worthless.
University of Virginia.
The next day, Søring talked for hours on end about nothing, but he refused to repeat his confession. Yet something in his eyes gave them encouragement. Then, quite suddenly...
Switch off the tape recorders.
You know we have to have them on.
I want to say something, but not if the recorders are on. I want this between us for now.
Okay, switch them off.
Yeah, but...
Turn them off.
I'll show you what happened.
And so 2 British policemen and a US sheriff found themselves acting out a gruesome murder from America's deep south in a London police station. Søring may have believed that if it wasn't taped, it wouldn't be admissible as evidence. But with 3 policemen to corroborate, this confession would stand up in court.
I was talking to Mr. Haysom out in the kitchen. I knew he would never change his mind about me and Liz, so we went through into the lounge.
Where was Mrs. Haysom?
She was in the kitchen.
I'll be Mrs. Haysom. Ricky, you be her husband.
All right.
Okay, shall I say you came in?
They wanted to know how, but also why.
So stupid! Won't you just give us a chance? Together. Give us a chance, that's all I'm asking. So I stabbed him. I stabbed him a lot, but he fought back. Then the old lady came into the room screaming.
Screw your courage to the sticking place and we'll not.
Okay, that's enough.
Why'd you have to kill them, son?
It was Liz who pushed me into it.
Now that you've done this for me.
She said that if I wanted to be with her, I would have to do this thing. I would have to do it for her.
The case had gone all the way. P.C. Wright and his boss Ken Beaver had helped solve one of America's most horrifying and intriguing murders. But what of the prints on the coffee cup? The key that had unlocked Søring's final confession. The supreme irony was that they'd been a red herring all along. Søring had heard that a bloody fingerprint had been found at the murder scene, a print that would have to have been left by the murderer. Søring had gone on the run the day before he was due to be fingerprinted. In his paranoia, he became obsessed that a coffee cup, offered to him by Gardner in his office, had been a trick to get his prints and match them to the one found at the scene. But Søring was wrong. There was an unidentified print found at the scene, but it wasn't in blood and it wasn't even Søring's. Gardner speculated that it may have been left by a workman. Søring did eventually plead not guilty to the murders, claiming that his untaped confession was invalid. But on June the 12th, 1990, after a long battle against extradition, he was found guilty at the Virginia State Court of murdering Mr. and Mrs. Haysom. A condition of his extradition was that he should not face the death sentence. So he was given 2 life sentences, which in America means life. And what of Elizabeth Haysom, the Lady Macbeth who had persuaded her lover to commit the murders? Strangely enough, she pleaded guilty with a minimum of fuss and was sentenced to 90 years. She told the court she had indeed manipulated Søring's love for her. "I was Lady Macbeth," she said. Good evening.